What excites me about what we're doing is we're building a mechanism that allows people to get back to creating art, not trying to copy the trends so they can get a voice in an avalanche of content. So, we're seeing more and more artists that sound exactly like each other because one trending artist hits, then people try and get a small piece of that by sounding or creating a track that sounds like that, or getting the same mix engineer or getting the same songwriter.
Yeah.
But it's the ability to get back to what is me and what's my representation and what does my signature look like, and how might my signature, using a technology like AI, blend with another artist's signature and create something truly special that would have never been created before.
And get paid. Hey, everybody. Welcome into what we're calling office hours. As we're spread across a number of different time zones, we wanted to carve out some time and bring on some of our team members and some guests we'll be having on to talk about what Monarch is doing and how it relates to IP and AI companies. So with that, today we have Finbar O'Hanlon streaming in from Australia, looking fabulous, and Ken Gay streaming in from west of Nashville. Guys, how are you?
Good, John.
Yeah, good. Sorry, I'm currently traveling, so you've got me in a pseudo vlogging location.
That's all right. It's all good. So today we wanted to talk about style rights and how they're different from copyrights. So, Finbar, can you kind of kick us off and talk about the StyleRight as you've kind of envisioned it for Monarch?
With every fundamental change or innovation, it comes at looking at something from a different lens. And really, the best way to start to think about this is that the existing music and arts and creative industries have been built upon commercializing assets that already exist, that an artist has created. So an artist creates a song, a photograph, a painting, a picture. Once that asset is created, then there's all these mechanisms put around that piece of art or that asset to help monetize that asset in any way, shape, or form. And copyright forms part of that whole mechanism of protecting specific rights. So it can't be abused and so it can be monetized. When you look at that, when you look at what's happening in the world of AI, the AI is in the creative industries, when AI is creating stuff in a generative content, the actual asset or the content is created when the return key is hit after a prompt. That's typically where it happens. And so it takes a thought process of, well, what are the recipe ingredients that go into making up the creative work that is output via AI? What are those components? And of those components, what are the influences that go into making that to get the output that the end user wants to direct? So what we came up with was starting to think about a brand new type of right, a brand new type of royalty, using an existing type of methodology around how do we protect artists' influence by using their style as an ingredient in creating a generative work. So really what we've done is take an old school methodology and try and apply it to a brand new world, the way the world is actually moving, which is in this generative world right now. And also, if we look at the consumption behavior of an average person these days, we've got a very short attention span and people are used to having content the way they want it, hyper-personalized. And this is part of the reason that, people are now starting to flock to being able to generate content that is familiar to them or inspirational to them, that they can actually be part of the process. So really a StyleRight, where we came about this was starting to think, how do we look at existing methodologies around protecting an artist's work? And how do we apply that to content that doesn't exist? And this is where StyleRight is a brand new type of right, whereby generative AI can use the style of an artist in the creation of the works. So it's that's what we've come at. We've really looked at this as from a brand new angle. This doesn't interrupt any traditional music rights, any traditional copyright. What it does, it adds on top of it.
Yeah.
It's a new form of revenue. It's a brand new methodology. And as I say, this is, if we ask, we've spoken to a lot of artists, and that it takes a little bit for their head to get around this, but it's most people are trying to stop AI.
Right.
The AI isn't stopping. You can lobby and stand outside and yell and chant. It's already well entrenched in society, and society's adopting it hand and fist. What we've looked at doing is trying to utilize this advancement in technology where it becomes the mechanism for artists in the future to get paid. And what's great about this is an artist right from now can have their whole catalog indexed. They don't have to create a song ever again.
Right.
Their influence can live on. So for existing artists, people who have large catalogs, for labels, for rights owners who are looking for a brand new monetization method, this is front and center, the connective tissue between the world of generative AI that's exploding and the artists that are creating work that, is to them true art.
Yeah. So a band like, say, Toto, who's had their career, been there, done that, bought the t-shirt, they're able to, if I understand it right, they're able to ingest their entire style, all the components of their brand, and generate revenue without creating anything new. But
Yes,
same way. They've had their career.
Yeah, that's right. There's a number of components to this, but that's absolutely right. Yes,
Yeah.
John.
That makes sense. So Finn, we talk about a Napster moment.
Yeah.
And we've hit on this before in some other conversations. How would you draw that parallel between where Napster was 10 or 11 years ago and where we are now?
Also, if we go back and look at Napster, we can look at it through a number of different lenses. We can look at it as a technology that came up that allowed people to steal content. That's one lens to look at it through. Another one is, it came up to solve a problem whereby, people couldn't get access to content that they'd already bought, that they've scratched their CD, or they couldn't play it on another format. There's a number of things, but what it did was it took a great amount of momentum because it met a market who was demanding a new experience. And so there was a technology change. And so that new tech, see, what happens is with every evolution of the market, right? Customers demand more. I'll give you an example. ChatGPT came out, November 2022. Soon as it launched, what did everyone say? Amazing. What happened the next month? Everyone said, oh, I wish it could do this. Why can't it do that? Can we do this? What if it could do images? Then DALL-E comes out. Oh, now what if we do video? So there's a market evolution with every brand new innovation. And what happens is that from the business side of it, if you're not evolving to meet the needs of the market, the gap between what you're providing and the market's expectations grows. Yeah. So the Napster moment was Napster came out with a technology that met the market demand at that time. But what happened was you had an industry that was cemented in one way of making money, and hell for leather went against it, and which was fine because they were in full protection mode. Right. Rather than going, okay, where is the market? These guys are doing something to meet the market. How might we evolve with Napster to be able to sort of meet this new demand, and what new commercial models are in place? Instead, they fought against it, and you could argue successfully. But as soon as that happened, then the whole world changed, and new platforms came out. So they really broke the glass ceiling. And now labels, part owners of streaming platforms. So it's always hard when you have a brand new innovation, when you're trying to cut through, especially when it's a breakthrough innovation, not just an incremental innovation. So with breakthrough innovation, there's always a change management piece, and that's always scary for people. Right. But it's when the breakthrough innovations, when they disrupt an existing industry, it has a lot of backlash. The thing about what we're trying to do, though, is we're not trying to disrupt an industry. The industry's already disrupted.
Right.
What we're trying to do is actually, we're trying to build a brand new on-ramp, a roadway, a highway onto this thing. We're not taking away business from anyone else. We're trying to create business for them. So looking at that comment at Napster moment, we are trying to create a brand new chart, a new territory.
Right.
And we're building an assembly, a swarm of an army of people who want to be able to sort of have a responsible framework where their authorized content can be utilized in new forms where they can get paid and be able to sit around and create great art. So yeah, that's what the Napster moment to me means. It's a fundamental shift in the way the world goes. The thing is that what we're doing is the fundamental shift's already happened. It's already been the Napster moment. We're the people trying to actually build the on-ramp whereby an old world connects to a new world.
Yeah, I love that. So Finn, what excites you the most? I mean, there's a lot of different parts of the Monarch operating system. For you, you're an artist, you're a technologist, you're a patent holder, you're CTO. What excites you the most about what we're doing at Monarch?
Well, I'm a weird musician. So I play a thing called a war guitar, which is sort of like a guitar and a bass and a keyboard all played together. I write music where I put mathematical equations into things. So I do things a little bit differently. What excites me about what we're doing is we're building a mechanism that allows people to get back to creating art, not trying to copy the trends so they can get a voice in an avalanche of content. So, we're seeing more and more artists that sound exactly like each other because one trending artist hits, then people try and get a small piece of that by sounding or creating a track that sounds like that, or getting the same mix engineer or getting the same songwriter.
Yeah.
But it's the ability to get back to what is me and what's my representation and what does my signature look like, and how might my signature using a technology like AI blend with another artist's signature and create something truly special that would have never been created before. So for me,
And
when
get paid.
AI, sorry,
And get paid.
and get paid, absolutely. And so for me to be able to sit in my room and create art the way I want it to do, and have this technology be being a manager for me, making content mixes on the fly where I wake up and I'm making money because my part of the recipe was used, is super, super powerful. And it's for me, that gets people back to being artists, not someone who's focusing all their money on their image and their brand just to be able to be seen that looks and sounds like someone else. And then we're in the sea of 50,000 songs being added to Spotify every day that all sound, And so what I'm excited about is the art and allowing artists to be artists and building a mechanism that allows them to be themselves.
Love that. So Finn, I've got another one, and then Ken has some questions here. We talk about content is everywhere and who cares, right? Videos everywhere, masters are everywhere. How would you explain the Monarch approach to the IP piece that's already everywhere in the world already?
Sorry, what do you mean by that?
Well, if I understand it right, Monarch isn't tied to a piece of a wrapper, an MP4 or a piece of video. Monarch watches on behalf of the artist. And
No.
how
Okay, so what Monarch does is we're an authorization engine that allows part of your recipe on a demand transaction to be created and monetized. We're not about watching content around the world and going, oh, well, you've got an AI piece of content, so therefore we're going to issue you a takedown notice. We're not in the police. We're not watching the space. Right. We're not watching artist content. We're not trying to go retroactively around, is this content created by AI or not? And think of it like this. When you tap your credit card on a point of sale terminal, when you're in a store and you go tap, I'm sure most people listening to this phone have got a tap mechanism, or if you're on an e-commerce site and you go and purchase something, a lot of invisible transactions happen in the back end of that before it says, yes, you can buy it, authorized. And in a way, what we do is we provide the keys, the authorization keys, on a prompt where someone says, hey, here are my daughter's birthday lyrics. Create me a song that sounds like Coldplay. Once the word of the artist or the band is interjected into that prompt, we then create a transactional element where the big AI company comes to Monarch and we say, okay, you've now got the rights to generate something in the style of Coldplay. Go and play it. Now that sounds like a pretty okay use case, but where's the business in that? Well, if we look at the current transactions that are happening, you are getting bots prompting AI music generation engines on behalf of business to business, which is, okay, Disney Cruise Lines, build me 3 months worth of playlists for each one of the different entertainment areas on my whole ship. All right, 3 months worth of music. Who gets paid for that? Right? AI can just go and generate that. A shopping center who says, here's my Christmas playlist. I want a Christmas playlist. The part of the chain of thought prompting, or the mechanism that the AI platform would then come back and say, give me a name of a couple of artists that you like. What we're looking for is the song or the artist that the prompter is looking for as an influence to create the output. And that becomes the transaction. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Sorry if I'm talking around, but I think, what we need to recognize, in my view, is that content is everywhere, and content now is not the problem.
Right.
The problem is, how do I find content that relates to me? Gen Z, Gen Alpha, I'm being brought into a world where they're the main character in their own world, and everything evolves around them. Their Instagram feeds, their Facebook feeds, blah, blah, blah. Everything is now hyper-personalized. And so how does content relate to someone who expects a hyper-personalized experience, right? We've got AI agents now that will be doing the curating, that will wake up and know that you liked something yesterday and will build you a place without you even asking. And so in that world, how does existing content play? So for me, it's the content is going to evolve into a more living, breathing organism whereby the style of those that have influenced that individual person can now be the recipe that actually helps them build the playlist that evolves around their life, not their life trying to evolve around some playlist which might be hit and miss. And I might like one song and play that one song over 50 times. So I just think the world's evolving, and what we're trying to do is to build the on-ramp to that new world.
That's a great answer. Ken, you want to jump in?
Yeah. So I've got a question for you, Finn. So looking at it from the artist's perspective, can I get, what's the experience of what you're talking about? Like when say, I had this thing done that you're talking about, indexing. Then what happens next? I mean, it's driven by the prompt, right? Is that it's the user that's driving this?
That's right. So think about, I'm presuming, I'll make a presumption here that most people have an internet banking account, right? So they log in to their internet banking account. In the initial stages, they have to set up their internet banking. They have to log in, they have to create an account, they have to go and create their password. It links to their card number or their account number, and then their balance shows up. And then in there, they've got a number of different, things about transactions, X, Y, and Z. We're currently at in early stages of development. We're currently building the engine, but the experience would be not too dissimilar, except you would have a number of different features in there. One would be generate my signature, and then you would have to put in some credentials that says this is where my Dropbox is, this is where all my files are, and we would then create a secure connection to your content. We don't copy any content, we don't do any of that stuff. We go in and interrogate up to 72 different feature components of your entire library and build a signature which AI engines can use as a token or a key that allows the prompt to be created. So as an artist, my experience is I go to a little login page, I log into Monarch, I create an account, I in my setup, I have a point where all of my content that I want to create, my signature sits in a folder on a secure thing that the artist is in control of or the rights owner is in control of. And then we have a process or a number of different processes, depending on the technicalities of the situation, whereby we interrogate that and create a digital token, or we're calling it a stylometric. It is a token which represents the style of that artist. And what happens is so from an artist perspective, that's the first part. So now you've created the token. Then on the back end, it's really just when prompts are created on one of our affiliate partner AI platforms, there will be a transaction that happens in the back end, and you'll be just waking up and looking in at your royalty statement, which is happening instantaneously on every single transaction that's happening where your StyleRight has been used on a per play basis. So that's version one. There's so much more that we're going to do, but we're not going to try and boil the ocean. We're trying to make this simple. We're going to try and grow this business. But what we're going to try and do is solve one key problem at the moment, which is to figure out that connective tissue between the ability to connect someone's stylistic input to generative output. And bear in mind, if we look at every single TV commercial where there's a music artist representing perfume, lipstick, branding, there's no real difference, right? Except this time what we're now doing is allowing their musical works to be an influence to a generative AI output.
Well, thank you, because that does help me understand that how the generative right, how that's different than it sits on top of the copyright. And so
so when you're talking about master rights or mechanicals or any of these other type rights, this doesn't interrupt any of that. It's a brand new right, which is an addition to it.
Right. Okay, cool. Thank you. Yeah, that explains a lot. From one of the things that we both hear about on a daily basis is all the lawsuits that's going on. And I know that there's legislation going on here in the U.S. that's shaping this stop. I also, keep up with what's going on down there in Australia. The one thing I want to ask you then is that you see global technologies in the AI space on a daily basis, right? And so me seeing you get excited gets me excited, obviously. What are the things that you think that are going to really make the change happen? Where do you think that moment happens where the shift has occurred? Where is that milestone, you think, for our industry?
Great question. I think we need to, first off, I think the industry needs to just take a step back for a moment. Right? We are zoomed in on our business like nothing else, and we're fighting over the scraps on the table. And there's an argument why that's valuable. And I think history will show that long term, it probably is a whole heap of energy that may have a very little outcome. But what I mean here is, let's zoom out. Everyone on this call that's interested in what we're talking about, I want you to do a little Google search. I want you to do a Google search for the value of tokenized transactions. You'll see that there's already billions of tokenized transactions happening every month in all different segments. And it's touted that tokenized transactions will also include medical health records, will include a whole bunch of stuff that's really complex at the moment. But it's already being handled by the largest financial organizations in the world to secure and stop and to have cybersecurity around your payments and your transactions. And so by zooming out and looking at that, we're not just coming in to change the music industry, or the arts industry. we're attaching ourselves to a rocket that's not just Gen AI, into a technology that is already well proven in securing and creating value for multiple segments. And so this ability to pull out and look at other markets and what other markets are doing gives one a really interesting perspective in being able to make informed decisions, whereby they're not just looking through their own lens all the time. Often the greatest innovations come from asking questions, not from actually knowing the answers. And to be able to ask, to have critical thinking and look across industry domains gives someone incredible experience to be able to sort of either validate a hypothesis or come up with something that they never thought was possible. So I don't know if I'm rabbiting on and not answering your question here, but I think it's really important that the music industry, it's about how do we harness this? Rather, it's like the whole alien thing, right? Aliens come down, they're the enemy, let's go and blast them out. Well, how do we know? We talk to them, if we found out if they can add value. It's like, let's not instantly dismiss this stuff. Let's start having the conversation like what we're having now. I'm a firm believer that we need to start to build an army of people that once this drops, there's always the people who are the thought leaders that are on the front of innovation.
Yeah.
What we're doing here isn't anything so groundbreaking. What we've done is put together the jigsaw puzzle pieces of the latest trends of proven technologies together in a way that amplifies value for artists and rights owners.
Right.
And so when we talk about something new, it's not, try not to approach it from fear. And fear is a natural thing. Change and something new is naturally something that's feared, because we've been educated into a world that really no longer exists. So how do we start to think about new ways, and who do we trust to actually take us on that journey?
Right.
Sorry if I'm rabbiting and I'm going on a wrong direction.
No, that answers the question. We talked about this from the artist perspective, the lawsuits that are happening and all that, there are those AI platforms out there that are being sued. At the same time, those are a handful in all reality. The big boys haven't come to play because, one, they don't want to get sued, and who blames at this moment. So from an AI platform standpoint, what does the stylometrics, what does that do for me? Where does that take?
Well, from an AI platform, if one of the biggest trending topics in AI is responsible AI, right? How do we build how do we build AI so it works in a responsible way? And what responsible means is so it can actually work not to the detriment of humanity, but to actually benefit humanity. How do we do it in a way where it doesn't have bias over one over another for wars or for political campaigns? And so what is a responsible framework? And what we're doing is we're building a responsible framework whereby the AI platforms have the ability to come to us on a prompt in milliseconds and get an authorization token that says, hey, we created this content, we had the key, we paid the royalty. So therefore, we don't have to worry that we haven't delivered a service to our end users, which is in a non-responsible manner. And also, the artists and the rights holders have given us the privilege to be able to use their content in a way that creates new derivative works which relate to the end user who's creating the prompt. So it's from an AI platform's perspective, I think it's the ultimate in being able to say, hey, we offload the responsibility and we pay a very small fee for that, which we can on charge to our customers. We can put it as part of our marketing or branding exercise, because we're talking about minuscule amounts per transaction. But that minuscule amount can be 50,000 times more per transaction to an artist than a Spotify transaction.
100%. Yeah.
Per transaction, 50,000 times more.
Yeah.
Yeah. You brought up a great point. Streaming for our industry is killed our industry, right? And so what we're seeing, that's dying. Gen AI
would
is that
argue-
new music area.
Yeah, so I would, and I could be wrong here, right? Look, I've been in the music industry a lot of my life. I've worked around the US and worked with lots of people in different segments of the music industry. But I would argue that, or put forward the argument that the reason is a big reason that Spotify is a commercial business. So is Apple Music, so is Tidal, and in a lot of cases, their job is to generate revenues. But the mechanisms in place to protect an artist, like the publisher can't say, no, you can't play that. It's just the record deal has the rights to go on. Yeah, there you go. But we don't have the mechanisms in place where an artist or a rights owner can control their content. The mechanical play is one thing, but the publishing is another. And so we haven't had the tools for the artist to be able to control their world. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to have a business just calling their own shots. Imagine if you went into a car dealership and they said, "Oh, we know the manufacturing cost is this, but we're going to charge 18 times more just because that's what we want, because we want to make more revenue." And there's no manufacturers that can say, "No, you can't do that." Well, that's sort of the music business. There's like the publishers can't step in and say, "You need both a publishing go no go and a rights holder go no go, and a master rights can't sit over everything over our entire catalog and allow you to do whatever you want with it." So what we're trying to do is we're trying to look at the failings of the past, look at the new technology of the future, look at some of the best in breed digital technologies that protect content or protect rights owners, and put it all together in a brand new jigsaw puzzle.
Love it. So I know we've got a couple guests on the stream here. As those questions come in, I've got one question for really both Ken and Finn. And that's these three words have come up a number of times over the last year, and that's ethical, responsible, and transparent. Let me say that again: ethical, responsible, and transparent. What does that mean to us as a company, and why is that important?
Do you want Ken to talk?
Okay, yeah, I'll go. Thank you.
Just because I've been talking so much. So.
Yeah. Well, you just actually outlined the ethical part of that. Now, what I enjoy about the Monarch and what we're doing here, when we come to these three words, they're not in. It's not these in this order. They're always constant. It's not a linear thing for these three. They actually fold into each other. Now, if you really want to be ethical, you must be transparent, right? Because that we can say ethics is what we all agree upon is what this is the belief structure, right? But when it's transparent, when everybody can see what everybody's doing, then it does make it ethical, because we can all see what's happening. That includes the AI platforms. They can audit, they can see. Someone says, "Hey, I think you did this wrong." They have reports right there, and they say, "No, here's my Monarch right here for that what you're talking about." So it protects them. That is a whole nother level when you as a IP owner have your control interface and you can see what people are how many people are using your stuff. What if we're doing a little campaign on this new record drop and we let them use just certain parts of the song to mess with to see what the results are, because you got users out there that are becoming prompt engineers, and so they're getting really good at it. And I'm talking about 10-year-olds, to 15. I watch them, walking around talking into their chat GPT, asking for all different things. And it's a whole different world. And so being able to insert transparency goes back to making it responsible. One of the things I believe about responsibility, being responsible, that means there's a privilege, right? So responsibility comes with a weight. The counterweight of that is the privilege, right? So when you say you're responsible, that also means you're also involved in a privilege at that moment. So these are all three words that come with a balance, and they all balance each other. Do I believe they're getting overused in some ways? Well, yes, I do. But here's one of the things about Monarch. There's no losers in the equation. Everybody wins. And so there's a win ethical. There's a win when you're responsible, and there's a win when you're transparent. So when you get an equation like that, it solves a very, very complex problem. It's a very simple notion, and that's why it's very, very impactful. That's why we're seeing what we're seeing today. Yeah.
I love that
question.
Hey guys, as we're buttoning up, any last questions from our guests in the audience? Anybody want to jump in? We got a few minutes left.
Hey, how's it going? Love this chat. I kind of have I don't know if it's a question or question statement, but typical copyrights would have to go through like government channels, and all these things can take time and all that stuff. And I think that's one of the big things versus a StyleRight versus a copyright. And I just kind of wanted to kind of explain how you guys explain how the speed of a StyleRight in real time can be a lot faster than a copyright.
Right.
That's a great point, Jeremy.
Yeah. So you're right. So the copyright, there is that process, right? So, when you create something, you own it in that moment. You've created it, right? But we use copyright to be able to have the filing date to say this and this, and this is my ownership, blah, 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 blah. It gives you that certificate, right? That certificate, and getting that certificate can take a while. We all know that. You're absolutely right. A StyleRight can be immediate because you have your interface as an IP, and when you've created something new, you drop it in wherever your storage of where your masters are of everything. It gets indexed, and your style gets updated. It's updated to include that. So that gives you the freedom as an artist to continue doing what you're doing as an artist and not be hung up on anything past that.
Yeah.
You're indexing and you are current.
And there's a lot of legislation going on that we'll be talking about in the coming weeks and months with the No Fakes Act and the Elvis Act. So yeah, we'll be talking about some of that and bringing on some guests, some of the authors of those bills, and possibly a senator. So lots of good stuff in front of us. So guys, thank you so much for jumping in and kicking off our office hours. Finbar, Ken, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be on this road with you guys and the rest of the team. This is an adventure for sure.
Yeah. Well, thanks for everyone for tuning in, and thanks for bearing with my my remote wandering and camera moves as I navigate this park.
Our man in the street in the parks of Australia.
That's right.
Handling.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thanks for watching and listening to ProAI Anti-Theft. If you got value out of today's episode, you can learn more at monarch.com. That's with 2 R's, where you can request your invite to become a member of the community. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel, where we have more great content for you. We are ProAI Anti-Theft.